So I'm really trying to learn this lesson of make sure that I'm not jumping too fast ahead on something to escape this tension that I'm in. But I do feel ready for baby steps, and those baby steps I think are going to lead to exciting adventures. So springtime, there should be some bubblings, but other than that, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, volcano energy.
Exactly.
It's always bubbling.
But with the little nipple bottle for the breastfeeding volcanoes. Basically, that's what I plan to do. Is learn how to breastfeed volcanoes. Something like that.
Love it.
Dragon vibes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Brother, cheers, man.
Cheers.
Great to see you.
You too. Here we are.
Here we are.
The legend of Sandy Dandy.
That's it. Full of
Continues.
facts. That's it, man.
Y'all know how we do it. Stars align.
Yeah.
Here with my brother Zach, also known as Channel the Sun, and appreciate you having us here.
Thank you,
us.
man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Unexpected surprise, bringing me out of my cave and my hibernation.
Yeah. Divine timing.
Always.
So we're gonna get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And first question we like to ask is, who are you? Who is Zach? Who is Channel the Sun?
Somebody I'm still meeting, I would say, In human form, I'm 35 years old. Originally from New York City, but born in London. Labels are strange to me, but I guess you could say I'm a poet. Someone who's been seeking since as far back as I can remember. Singer, songwriter, musician, creative director, but again, still meeting myself every day, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's roll into the next one.
Yes, sir.
Where does some of your inspiration come from for creating your artwork?
For me, a lot of my inspiration comes from pain. And that's always been the case. I feel like it's a mixture between, do you want me to pause for that? Pause for the planes.
Yeah.
A lot of planes out here, y'all. And I think that's a nice metaphor of the interference constantly trying to interrupt our inner focus and how we have to dance between the raindrops. Little sound bite.
Yeah, so we'll roll back into that one. Where does some of your inspiration come from for creating your art?
A lot of my inspiration throughout the years has come from pain and discomfort, but then also maybe equally balanced with an awareness of magic and love and wanting to participate in the great song and unfolding of the mystery of life. So whether that was being exposed to a lot of fairy tales when I was young, I went to different schools, but Waldorf education, which is a very creative situation. I'll pause. I can pause without stopping, and you just cut right if you want. So yeah, Waldorf education. I went to a lot of Waldorf schools, which very much encourages creativity. So ever since I was young, I was exposed to stories. And then hip hop music hit me hard when I think I was 11. And that mixed with the love for stories and books just started to kind of combine. I would say musically, Motown is my all-time favorite. Stax, Motown, soul music speaks to me the most. It's what I listen to most consistently. But hip hop and rap music definitely lit a fire in me. And then really reading is my, I don't know if it's my main, but I'm constantly reading books, poetry, novels, fiction. So yeah.
What are some books that you've been reading lately?
Man, I've been on a kick ever since I took a step back from normal. For 20 years I've been grinding pretty consistently, and a few months ago I consciously decided to step back. Oh wait. I kind of like the play. It's like a good part of my and then the light, you know, everything.
There's literally like 3 planes flying above
I told
right
you,
now.
bro. They have a lot of legal battles about this.
Yeah.
Because Santa Monica Airport, anyway, noise pollution. Well, I'm always reading, but ever since the hibernation, I read all 6 books of Dune in the past year, and then I came across a book called The Overstory by a guy named Richard Price, which I highly recommend. Fell in love with him. I've now read 4 books by him, and when you guys arrived, I had 2 more waiting for me in the mail. And then a book that's been really speaking to me is by Michael Meade called Awakening the Soul.
Yeah.
And I've also been listening to his podcasts. Molly and I read to each other, so we've been reading books to each other. But yeah, I'd say The Overstory and Richard Price, as well as Michael Meade, have been really lighting something in me recently.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to, let's hear about more of your journey throughout the music industry. I think you have such a unique story, and yeah, I'd love to hear more about it.
Definitely. So when I was 13, started a new high school, and strangely enough, September 11th was my first day of high school.
Wow.
The September 11th. Right around that time, I was becoming more and more aware of the suffering in this world. Not that I wasn't aware, but it started to hit me in this way. And listening to, I believe it was a Snoop Dogg song that initially like lit something in me around the love of hip hop, rap music. So I started writing and recording when I was like 11, 12, and now I'm 35. So it's been consistently doing that. It took me a long time, especially as a white man, to find an authentic voice, you know. I met a producer named Illmind, who I think we've spoken about. Shout out to Illmind.
Shout out to Illmind.
And when we met, I was in college in New York. We just hit it off one night at one of his events, and he produced an album for me, and then he asked me to start a group with him, brought in 2 other members, and then we had a run of like 6 years with a group called Smokey Robotic, which was like funk, pop, wild creativity, managed by Pharrell's manager, flown out by Dr. Luke. Not to name drop a lot, but point being is we had a lot of external recognition and success, and it seemed like we were on the path to that thing that a lot of modern artists seek.
Yeah.
But Spirit had another plan, and things started to unravel, which was very hard and difficult, especially because we were right there. It's confusing. And that was probably around 27 when that started to peter out. I got sober from alcohol, having a sip or 2 now in a balanced way. Cheers.
Hey, my boy.
7 years sober. And moved from New York to LA, where I began a new journey. And again, it was tricky because in New York I had access to any studio I wanted. Not any, but I just had everything I needed. Big community. And it was really hard to start again, you know, staying on my mom's couch, bugging a producer named Red Buttons. You'll get his side of the story at some point, but I'd heard about him and was given his phone number, and I was kind of hounding him.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was so persistent, but I didn't have my license at the time because I was from New York, so I was taking buses to go meet Red, and I really had to humble myself. And that's where Channel the Sun came from, though, is quickly Red and I established a rapport. We had some studios that we started working out of, and Channel the Sun evolved, you know, and it was amazing. I met Molly, my wife now of 7 years, or been together 7 years. We have our son, Rock, who's almost 3 now. And the journey of Channel the Sun is wild. I won't even try to summarize it in this moment other than to say that it always begins in music for me, but quickly it expanded into tattooing and filmmaking and screenwriting and poetry. We started a magazine, podcast, just always creating. And we have this vision with Channel the Sun, which the name Channel the Sun came from my mom. Before every show, I would call her usually, and she would always say, Zach, go up on stage and imagine the sun behind you shining through your chest out into the world. Forget about you. Don't try to be, just let that big light that animates everything come through you, and we'll all feel that. So I was in the studio one day, and I remember I wrote a lyric, Channel the Sun, let it flow through my veins, out the tips of my fingers. And as we started to realize that there was something forming, like a collective, there were these certain people, Red and I were at the nucleus of that, thinking of names, and Channel the Sun was the name that came through strongly, and it stuck. And, you know, and then now 7 years later, during that arc, there were other moments like the Smokey Robotic where it was like, ooh, it looks like we're getting close to something that would make sense to the modern career. And something stopped it each time. And there's something in me and externally that kept calling me back to something else. And it's been really hard, as you can imagine, especially being someone who has been recognized consistently, you know, for a long time. And the sirens and the planes and all the noise around us, shout out to Drew, and who will be editing this, so hopefully it doesn't fuck you up, but I think it's a perfect metaphor for all of these distractions that have tried to sway me or pull me, and the process of having to be humbled again and again, and I'm in one right now, you know, whether that's monetarily, whether that's feeling like I'm not being recognized in the way that I should be, whether that's body image. I've always had, you know, a lot of trouble with my appearance, which is funny because certain, you know, my wife, certain people say, man, you're a good looking guy, whatever.
Attractive dude, right?
Whatever. But,
respectfully.
No, I appreciate it. But I've had like a lot of torturous experience continuously to be skinny in a certain way. You know, face turning red, my body often betrays me. All of these things, which has made it really difficult for me to play the role of this kind of modern superstar, whatever the fuck. So that's a bit of the journey. I mean, consistently recording, creating, again, rooted in music, but it takes many forms. And right now, this beautiful connection right here is the first stepping out of the cave that I've consciously put myself in. You know, I had one when I was 24, which wasn't up to me. I was in a psych ward for a chemically induced psychosis, which was an initiation. And in this Western world, it's difficult to find mirrors to show a soul's journey in the authentic way. So we can often get lost out spinning, unaware of what's really happening. But it's pretty cool that this time, it wasn't by choice. I mean, I broke my ankle 3 years ago. It's still bothering me. You know, the Achilles heel, if you will. Funny enough, I broke it playing basketball with my brother Taelor, who is the co-founder of Channel the Sun, and he passed away 3 months ago. And he's right here with me right now, and us. And he's not. And yeah, man, the journey has been vibrant, explosive, creative. I've had the joy to work with all sorts of amazing humans, and it's also been excruciating. But here I am, and, you know, currently tattooing, just finished my head, my whole back, down my ass. You gotta pay for that shot though. And this process of tattooing is actually me consciously transforming myself on the threshold of knowing that I do want to live and I do want to be creative, but I know that certain ways of doing that are just not for me. And the last thing I'll say on this question is an idea that Michael Mead has been reminding me. especially in Western culture, people talk about you can be anything you want to be. But the soul is kind of paradoxical in the sense that there is an expansive potential in it. But I believe you come in with a mission. So you can't be anything you want to be. Your soul has a plan. And I had a reading recently with a woman who told me that in a past life, I was a big leader. I'll wait for the plane. Where are you at?
The Wispy Wizard.
That's it. For real. For real.
Oh, man.
Thanks for this, man. It feels
Yeah,
good.
dude, I love this. This is what people need to hear, man. You know, like it really is. We had a really awesome conversation yesterday with one of our friends, Michael, and he's in the film industry, and he told us a story. First film he worked on with his pops was Wolf of Wall Street, and he had like made it through college. He did all he didn't do any of his electives, right? There was a glitch in the system, and the system said he did those courses.
Wow. I had some of those.
And he never said that, right?
Wow.
So by the end of the college, he had 2 years left to do all the bullshit courses that he didn't even want to do.
Yeah.
So his dad was like, come out to New York. You're going to sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
You're going to work on this film for 18 months.
Yeah.
And that was his first thing. And then it was just him project after project and got the experience.
Wow.
Yeah, powerful. Sorry, continue.
No, you're good. So I had this reading, and this friend of mine said in a past life that I already was a recognized kind of leader, whether that's like a Kendrick or someone I've been trying to be.
Yeah.
And I already did that. But in this life, the way she saw it is that because I've already done that, Spirit won't allow me to just have it that way because I've already done that. So this time it's more about internalizing and not needing external validation to know who I am. And that there's a lot of invisible work being done, whether or not I'm recognized in the way that modern culture says, you know, is the definition of success. So I've been settling in, and what the last thing I'll say on that is she said like a witch in the woods wouldn't be out over promoting her stuff. She's in her hut and she's doing her ceremonies and her routines, her practices, and she's waiting for life to bring that knock on the door that's meant to be. So I've been really practicing after being someone who's so New York City hustler, go, go, go. Can I really trust the universe right now? You knocked on my door today. I'm the witch in the woods. Let's get it.
Let's go. Thank you, man.
Thank you, brother. You already know.
So we'll lead into the next one. I think this is a great segue.
Yep.
What is one piece of advice that you would like to give to an up-and-coming artist, creator, entrepreneur? And I feel like you gave us a bunch of gems in the last question, but you know, to really hone that in.
Well, the first thing that popped in my head when you said that, because there's many different things at any moment that I could say or one could say. But the first thing, so I'll trust that intuitive hit. I don't even like words like intuitive hit. I don't like language a lot. Hopefully you can feel beneath the words. The first thing that came up was don't be afraid to die. And I don't mean that literally.
Yeah.
But again, outside of Western culture, a lot of societies and, you know, people knew the wisdom of embracing death throughout the phases, and that disappointments, roadblocks, as Michael Meade said in the book today, and it resonates with me in my actual experience, are not here to punish you or block you, but instead to detour you or reroute you back to who you're supposed to be. So I would just say not being afraid to metaphorically die, whatever that may mean. And in fact, you know, learning to see our expectations are meant to not be fulfilled here. This whole life journey is about your expectations being thwarted. And there's a quote that I'm not going to say it accurately because whatever, but the gist of it, and it's a mantra for me, is those who the gods wish to punish, they grant their wishes. So the idea for that is like, if God, spirit, however you think, doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's all, something's happening here bigger than we can see. If spirit is like a little bit, maybe not caring for you as much, or I don't even know how to say that, but if spirit is like, whatever, get what you want, they'll say, sure, you want to be a fucking king? Go be a fucking king. Or you want to be, but if spirit loves you, and maybe in this incarnation, you're meant to really go a certain way, your expectations will be blocked again and again. And that is not a punishment, but a gift.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, hard earned, and I'm still learning it, but don't be afraid to die. Metaphorically.
Woo!
I'm actually a silly dad joking motherfucker, but it gets a little deep sometimes.
Let's go.
You know how we do.
Let's go.
We should call this episode Waiting for Planes. For real. Literally. Got to.
Man.
Waiting for planes. Underground pilots.
Cool. All right, I think we're swoovy. Let's roll into the next one. What is one key lesson you've learned over the past 12 months?
Okay, so this one, I'm quoting Michael Meade a lot. I'm always wary of the part that wants to take an outside source and like cling to it. But the difference with Michael Meade for me is he's a clear mirror for my own experience. So I don't feel like I'm adopting someone else's. In fact, I just feel like he's helping me see more clearly what I already know, and it resonates. But this idea that life is about tension. The universe was created in between chaos and cosmos. And that's an ever balancing flow. And there's a phrase in Jungian depth psychology called conjunctio. And conjunctio is kind of the idea of how you have to learn to hold the opposing tension of opposites in order to birth a third and new thing. And that's alchemical. Actually, that's alchemical. That's not Jungian. That's an alchemical. The process of alchemy, literally, is about, opposing opposites. So what I've been learning and feeling, whether it's me breaking my ankle, whether it's Smokey Robotic falling apart, whether it's a falling out with a collaborator, whether it's physical injury, whatever it may be, something stopping me in my tracks. That's an invitation to get more in touch with who I really am and who I'm here to be. So exercise is key for me for my mental health. With these tattoos and with this injury, I haven't been able to be in the gym 3 hours a day like I was for 10 years. Every day, religiously. That tension makes me squirm. Bad. I'm talking about physical squirming where my skin itches, all the way to feel like I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. Whether that was smoking weed when I deeply didn't want to, but just pacing, addiction, on the phone too much, trying to hustle, trying to work my way out. So what Michael Meade helped me see, and the lesson that I'm in right now, is life is going to constantly be putting us in these tensions in order to create a new thing, the third thing. The whole world is in one right now with COVID, right? There's something new that's trying to be born into the world. If you leave the tension too quickly, pardon the expression, all respect due, but it could potentially be like a miscarriage of what was meant to come. If you jump out of it too fast. And I'm guilty of that all the time. If you jump out of it too fast, whether that's in a relationship with a partner, romantically, creatively, however, a lot of people have the honeymoon bullshit in this society. They just want stuff when it's cool and if it's not a fuck yes, then I'm out. I say fuck no to that kind of thinking, man. Because if you escape from that tension too soon, A, you lose what was trying to come, and B, it's gonna come back. Woo. So you might as well face it, because each time it gets louder until you die. It will kill you eventually. And then maybe re-rinse you and you can come back and do it again. But I've been given a lot of gifts in this life, and I don't want to squander my gifts as much as humanly possible. So whether it's me pacing around feeling like a loser at 35, or feeling overweight because I can't be in the gym 3 hours a day, or feeling anxious because I'm puttering around the house, cooking or being a dad, or just, especially after having such a big creative life, I feel I can hear this voice being like, what are you doing, bro? Where are you at? If I escape from that and try to move from desperation and fear, it's gonna hit me again, because it has been hitting me again. So the more I can sit in this, and Michael Meade was asked the question, like, how do you know when that third is present? And what he said, I'm summarizing in the way I interpreted, is it's not a conscious thing. There's something that will actually rise up, and soul will come, and it's not even like it just like takes over. And that creativity will be born out of that. So that's the lesson I'm in currently. It's a motherfucker, for real.
Straight up.
Shit hurts, it burns. But I feel like that's the only real satisfaction you can find, because I've had glimmers of all the things I thought I wanted. And they're fleeting. And you quickly want the next thing. Did your phone die?
No.
Okay. If it did, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it did.
Catch the last questions off the top, baby. That's how we do it.
That's how we do it.
We don't need them.
Yeah, no.
I wanna hop in. So
Let's go.
You said you've been married for 7 years now.
Been with her for 7 years, married like 4, yeah.
What has she brought to your
How has
own
she changed?
personal creative journey?
I mean, Molly, when I met her, I was super skinny. I was working out all the time. I was still riding that high of being smoke aerobatic. And she likes to call me the way I was, kind of like a prince. Like I was very creative, very hardworking, but it was almost like I was waiting to be saved and felt like I deserve it. Like, who's gonna sign me? What's up, She helped show me in life at the same time, but she helped me walk through that to get my hands dirty, to start doing the email stuff myself, to start whatever it may be. She grounded me. She continues to ground me. Most importantly, what I would say Molly has done and does for me is when I feel ugly, when I feel like a loser, she holds up a mirror and shows me that she thinks I'm more beautiful in this way. That could be I'm a little overweight compared to what I think I should be. That could be my career is not moving, and she'll look at me genuinely and be like, you are beautiful. In fact, I think you're more beautiful because before you looked tortured and driven by some weird thing. And so, yeah, Molly holds up a mirror that is unfaltering, like excruciatingly so at some points, because I can't cheat it. It's constant right there. But because of that, that's what we both signed up for. And that's what's made the art become more real, more deep. I can hear in my lyrics a simplicity, an honesty, and less self-conscious of the outside world or what I thought or think people want to hear, but really digging into my discomfort, expressing that. Many other things. I mean, Molly is one of a kind. You should definitely, if you can get her on, have her on this show.
We'll have to speak to her agent.
Exactly, which is Rock. You gotta talk to Rock. But I hope that answers. I think that's like that's what's coming out now. The gist of what she's done is just held this mirror up to really allow me to see me and
Your authentic self.
more and more.
Yeah.
More and more.
Yeah.
And the times when I thought she might be disappointed, she actually celebrated that. And the times when maybe I thought she's always celebrated my successes, but it's surprising to me how she celebrates what I would deem as a failure, because she starts to see the real me coming through more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it taps back into that message that you were saying before, where the quote unquote failures are just detours to lead you back to yourself.
Yep.
And that's that
invitations.
Mirror. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
I love that.
Fatherhood.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, we'll get into the next one. This is a great segue.
Yeah.
What are some, I would say, daily routines and practices that you've acquired that allow you to remain rooted and centered in yourself?
You know, it's funny. For me, exercise has always been the one, but even that has been pulled away from me. So recently, it's hard, man. I've never been a guy who meditates. I like the idea, I've tried. I've always been a seasonal creative kind of person. Sometimes I'll go through months where I wake up at 5 a.m. and write poetry every morning for 2 hours. Sometimes I'll read 30 novels in a row and then not read for a year. Sometimes I'll record 50 songs and then not record, so I've always just kind of trusted this flow. Throughout the years, exercise, physical exertion has been one thing that's kept me really in myself. The only daily routines that I've seen consistently recently is being a dad. And rock has been a daily routine, and Molly, and just showing up for my family, especially because I'm home. And we've chosen, and life has kind of put us in this position where we are at home, working from home. Molly will go downstairs, she's a therapist, and so she'll have her sessions, and then I'll be with Rock, or my mom will be with Rock. But that's been a daily routine. There hasn't been one thing consistently, though, like a meditation, other than exercise. And even that feels like part of my journey, though, to find some center even when I feel uncentered in myself, or allowing myself to be kind of floating, but I'm still centered. So I would say, yeah, family has been my routine. That is just my life and what I choose. Cooking, I love to cook, doing laundry, cleaning the house. And recently reading, I'm very much back into that. So that's been a routine daily that's been helping me a lot. But creativity, not so much. I mean, I step back, and that's been hard. And I know there's I can hear voices, literal voices, externally and also internally, that's like, dude, you're here to create. What are you doing? The world's fucked up. What are you doing? And I'm like, you know what? I've played that game where I was trying to save the world, or, I did the daily flows where we did 212 songs in a row. I mean, we took a few days, but at first it was every day a song written and recorded from scratch with a video shot, posted the same night, 212. I've done the insane, I can out-create everything. So for me, not creating has been my practice, and it's hard because there's that fear, and it's like, who am I? And I'm shedding my identity. Maybe I'm not gonna be Channel the Sun. Maybe I'm not gonna, who knows? Maybe I'll become a janitor. But in letting go, same as you guys showing up today, I have a project that's slowly, the tattoo thing, we're making a film, and then we have this kind of podcast.
Don't share too much.
Yeah.
Don't share.
We have something.
We'll get into that.
We have something growing, but
Yeah.
Point being, the daily routine has been family, and then almost trust, whatever that looks like, and just floating day to day and trying to just be in the moment. Not trying to be in the moment, but just trying to be all right, I'm here right now. What am I doing later? I'm going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening tomorrow. I have no fucking idea. So, yeah.
Good place to be.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And man, I feel like it's a wild, like, shout out to Spirit and shout out to Synchronicity and Source.
Always.
Because the way that the conversation evolves and leads us into this next segment, and something I resonate with and we both connect on is, how is dealing with family, how has fatherhood, your experience with fatherhood, what's the connection to that with your creativity?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, you know, it's similar to what I was saying about how the soul seemingly is always trying to get our awareness to follow and become who we truly are. And also the idea that boundaries create freedom. It reminds me of this kind of metaphor that Molly talked to me about. I believe it's called the puer syndrome or the Peter Pan syndrome, where you get stuck in this room of infinite possibility and you never commit to a door. So when Rock was born, and he was born in our home and I caught him in my hands, this was and it's an everyday choice, but this was like life became real, and certain things, you know, we not only couldn't, but didn't want to, you know, and chose to raise him the way we are. But it put a leash on my illusion that I could do whatever I want to do. And in that, I found a lot more freedom, strangely. Yeah, I mean, there's a story that I want to mention, that on my 33rd birthday, my dad, who's a very trippy guy, lived many lives in this life, we're in the alley, and he pulls me aside, and I'm telling him about how in Argentina, someone Instagram messaged me saying, when I heard your music, it brought magic to my whole city. And I knew almost immediately, wait, my ego was like, word. But I knew, okay, I didn't bring magic to his city. Maybe the music touched something and opened his eyes to the magic that was already there. But I was still proud, and I was telling my dad, because it feels good to be recognized for your soul work. And my dad was like, okay, it's your 33rd birthday, I'm gonna tell you a little something extra. And he had sunglasses on, and he takes them off, and he tips it down and looks at me. He says, Zach, you think Argentina feels your work? He said, when you change a diaper with the right energy and intention, he said, the whole fucking universe feels it. And chills through my whole body. Then I realized, and I'm still realizing, and the gift of father, I mean, there's so many things to say about being a dad, but the outside busyness is a distraction and an illusion. And it's real, but it's an illusion. So the countless nights and days spent and continue to be spent here has actually allowed me to travel more, if that makes any sense. And I used to fly all the time. I haven't been on an airplane in 3 years plus. You can't even get me to go anywhere. You know me, I'm always like, nah. But yeah, that kind of beautiful limitation, or what you might think would be a limitation, has proven to be a great expansion. And so yeah, the gift of father, I mean, again, there's many things I could say around just nurturing and allowing your creation, it's not my creation, the creations that come through us, to surprise you and to leave room to, like, obviously you want to be somewhat of a boundary and a guide to make sure your child is safe or your art is safe, but then just leaving room for it to shock you, surprise you. Malleability, a lot of humor, a lot of tears. Yeah, man, that's some of the things. And I got something coming up which I'll keep on the hush, but a lot of the work that I plan to continue with will be kind of around that balance of parenthood and creation and the correlation of birth, pregnancy, and creating and bringing dreams into the physical world simultaneously. But yeah, to me, the limitation creates freedom. And you got a cute little anchor. Like, you know, it would know, you know, I've had myself anchored by things that were not so cute.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing to have like the cutest little being in the world who's anchoring you, surprising you, reflecting you, teaching you, reminding you. Yeah, it's a mystery, man. And to be as much as possible to be in touch with the mystery that is ever present, and how easy it is for our certain part of our mind to try to define or limit or stagnate. And being a dad just continues to keep me on my toes to the simplest things, and bringing presence to changing a diaper. And also, last thing I'll say on this, because we'll do other talks about it and creations, but there's been a humility and a killing of my illusion of being perfect. So there's certain things that I've seen parts of myself that scare me. That's a lot of what my work, I think, is about, is being vulnerable around things that have been categorized as wrong or bad. So whether that's an overreaction, whether that's a feeling of like, I mean, parenthood is serious, man, super serious. And there's nights of sleeplessness for years on end. And I have felt presences that feel ancestral and older than me, and that are like, dude, tell that, shut the, you know, all these things. And I'm like, what is that? You know, Rock has big upsets. He's the sweetest guy, but he'll have these almost like extreme upsets that are very normal, but aren't necessarily common. And that'll put you to the test, man. And learn how to forgive yourself and understand yourself. I mean, life, I believe, is constantly attempting to enlighten us. And there's many paths, many paths. And parenthood is definitely and marriage are both very serious containers if approached with an ability to hold. No matter what happens, I'm gonna hold it, even when I don't want to be here or I can't handle it. And I feel like, you know, the storm passes, and learning your thresholds and your boundaries. Michael Meade talks about when you hear a voice in your head saying, I can't do this anymore, that's your ego. And thank God it's saying that, because A, it can do that. It's much more resilient than it might think. And B, that means you're on the threshold of a new birth and the soul popping in. So shout out to my little man, Rock.
The legend of
He's
Sandy
a problem.
Dandy.
He's a problem. He's already making NFTs. He's tattooing his stuffed animals. He's hilarious, man.
Yeah. That's something we'll get into on the next episode, is really,
I think you should do a whole one with him.
uncovering the legend of Sandy Dandy.
Yeah, man. Sandy Dandy.
And yeah, man, this is why I wanted to segue earlier, because I know you were about to share, but the next question is a perfect moment for that. We'd love to hear about some of the things that you have planned for 2022 and beyond. And I say this on every episode, but I like to take this moment as like a collective incubator to be able to ground down and ground into what you're manifesting, what you're presenting, and having a collective community really find out more and support that, and be able to get in touch and collaborate. And,
amazing.
You know, I think it's very empowering for fellow creators to tap in.
Yeah, so as I've discussed a bit, you know, I've been creating for so long in so many different ways, always rooted in music, and I've always had a very universal big vision. And I've had a lot of success inspiring all sorts of people to rise to the occasion and create crazy next level stuff without having financial support, just off sheer imagination. Sounds sounds far away. So this time of sitting back and hibernating has been a recalibration to say, okay, I know I'm here for something. I know my work is not, it feels like my work is not done in this form. I want to continue. How can I let everything go for a while and then allow the right things to come back and kind of retrace my steps? And my biggest work is simplification, because I'm always trying to do too much all at once. Because I have a big expansive vision of unlocking, Robin Hooding the world and, you know, unlocking billions of dollars for everyone and making the quiet voices loud and etc. Right now, I'm working on a film called Still Breathing, which is about the tattoo journey of my head and back. It's about Taelor leaving the body. It's about keeping creativity alive and connected in a time when the whole world is being forced to slow down. And the theme of it is this dragon, which is happening down my back, who to me represents mythology, creativity, misunderstood ferocity, playfulness. My dad, when I was talking to him about the project, was mentioning how in a lot of storytelling, there's always this knight or hero to slay the dragon. And in my story, and this story, not my story, this story, I can imagine a woman intervening to this knight and being like, bro, step back, stop. The dragon has a message. The dragon is lonely. Every time the dragon breathes the fire, it burns, but it doesn't want to hurt, it wants to play. So that's this film we're working on, and we've been shooting it for a year. Shout out to Davi Escobar. I hope you have him on the show soon.
We'd love to.
AJ.
Yeah, shout out
the
AJ.
whole channel, The Sun Family.
Shout out AJ.
Red, Michael, everybody.
Shout out Red.
You already
Michael!
know. Everybody. Everybody.
Yeah.
But then, like, that's been just a nice little, because I'm a junkie of art, man. I can't have nothing. I can't go cold turkey or I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
So that's been like, at least I have a little something. But meanwhile, we've been planning a show. And you could call it a podcast, but what it is really is a much more simplified container that will allow for the expansiveness of how Channel the Sun, myself, and my friends like to create. Aiming for springtime release. Next week we start the official recordings. It's going to be a nice mixture of like spontaneity and kind of planned and thought out. And I'm someone who often rushes ahead. And I like to I've always been astonished and humbled by novelists and writers, people who can sit and hold a vision for a long time. That's hard for me. It's excruciating. So I've been learning and attempting to like go slow. I won't say too much about it, but the show will be in a podcast form with many different octopus tentacles of a publishing, printing press, of books and various physical art, NFTs. We've been doing some work in that. We're going nice and slow, but there'll definitely be a division of that. Obviously music. There's kind of a catch to the show, which I don't want to give away, but safe to say there'll be a lot of music coming through the show, original new music. Storytelling, events, workshops. Again, trying to just stay real focused, because the show will allow me to literally go downstairs, turn on my mic, and my nucleus crew, we can do a lot from a distance. So we're going to start simple, but I'm super excited once and for all, God willing, to have a formula and a container to harness this that can also be simple and not waiting on some illusion of some savior financially to come, and it can be just something that we build day to day, as well as utilize the big vault of content that the world hasn't even heard, that we've been sitting on for a long time, and to tell some stories. So again, I don't want to give away too much, but that's kind of what's brewing. And it's funny because I've been getting excited about that. I've been training with my brother Kevin, starting to feel a little more in shape. And then I noticed the moment, like we did a week of training, I woke up Monday and my back was spasming, thrown out, I couldn't move.
Ooh.
Or I'll get excited and I'll make a phone call and this and that, and suddenly I just feel like this like exhaustion. So I'm really trying to learn this lesson of make sure that I'm not jumping too fast ahead on something to escape this tension that I'm in. But I do feel ready for baby steps, and those baby steps I think are going to lead to exciting adventures. So springtime, there should be some bubblings, but other than that, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, volcano energy.
Exactly.
It's always bubbling.
Well, with the little nipple bottle for the, breastfeeding volcanoes. Basically, that's what I plan to do. Is learn how to breastfeed volcanoes. Something like that.
Love it.
Dragon vibes.
Yeah. So we're gonna close this one out. And
Yes.
how we like to do it on Stars Align is, I would love for you to share with us your idea of paradise.
Whew. Let's see. Well, I hear the word paradise and I think paradox. So I think you need a pair of eyes to make sure when you roll your pair of dice that they're equally balanced. Your pair of dice for the paradise of the paradox that has room for all sides. One of my favorite ideas to try to capture the essence of life is a deity that has kind of floated between, no one knows exactly where it came from, called Abraxas. And Abraxas, and the wind picks up, I can feel it, man. Abraxas, in my limited understanding, is all about the devil and God as one. So, I have a tattoo here that my sister Michael made based off a lyric, which means the devil is God in a mask, which would imply that paradise is hell in disguise, and also that hell is paradise in disguise. So my idea of paradise, as I roll my pair of dice, would be maybe say fuck paradise and fuck hell, but learn to find a center and a peace, but you need to leave room to not be peaceful too. Maybe an acceptance of the ever-changing. Paradise, which I've sought after, is a sneaky thing that I think you have to be careful of. And I'm reminded of how the tattoo journey, I hate how my tattoos fade. And I was talking to my dad about that, and I always think, man, should I like redo, like what, and he said, thank God tattoos fade. And the idea that perfection is stagnation and death, and that things are meant to be imperfect here. So paradise to me, is an individual thing. I think someone on your show said, being able to have the space to do what you want to do and love. I like that. And not to challenge that at all, but like if we're remembering what we talk about, it's important to fall out of what you love to do in order to grow. It's important to have hard experiences. So I think this is paradise right now. And I think it's a reframing of us. And I think, yes, the soul craves for a peace, and maybe we come from a paradise, meaning we come from a love and a oneness, which we may return to. I believe we do. But paradise, like that's almost easy, right? If you're born into oneness and love and everything's peace, that's great, but you have no context. And if I believe we're all, come from that expansive, infinite, how cool is it that we're here in bodies that have limitations, and yet we're still finding these glimpses and moments of that eternity in time. So I'm playing around paradise, roll of paradise. I think the last thing I'll say is kind of long-winded, but my dad likes to say, if Moses came down from the mountain and instead of saying, this is what God said, If Moses had said, hey, look what God said to me, why don't you go up there and see what God says to you? Paradise or the Bible or any scripture to me should be a motherfucking Wikipedia that is constantly evolving. For if you stagnate with your findings, the future in any way, you are faking the funk, in my opinion. And if you think you're a guru, you're not a guru. And if you think you're a teacher, you're not a teacher. And if you think you found paradise, I feel like you might be in hell. So paradise is just a paradise, motherfucker. Let's roll that shit.
Beautiful, bro.
No answers. All more questions. I'm figuring it out. You already know, my brother. All the love.
Thank you so much.
Thank
bro.
you, man. And all due respect. I mean, no harm.
No, respect, like we like to say on the show, respectfully. Respectfully.
I don't know.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Let's get
Stars
it.
align. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.